Well, looks like the Grom battery's dead. That sucks. Thank God I can push start it. Well, maybe not. Let's try again. Get me a little momentum going. Plop my fat ass down on the seat. There we go. Good as new. So definitely got to get that fixed. I think I'm gonna go Amazon. Not really a fan of Amazon. Call me crazy, but I feel like they're not gonna be cheap forever. I'm thinking that once they start putting everybody out of business, they can name their price. And as long as they're cheap, people are going to keep going to them over the Walmarts and everybody else. And eventually they won't be able to hold on, whatever. That was kind of dumb, hold in. Where did I get that from? Anyway, so once Walmart and Target can't hold on anymore, then it is going to be very expensive. Alright, let's see what we're going to do here. Thank you, buddy. You know, it's so rare that somebody is not an idiot on the road. She thought I was going to splash her. Oh, man. You know what? I don't blame her, though, because when I was young, I used to do stuff like that on purpose. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened before. And then these days, people are so stupid that I can see somebody totally doing that by accident. Just not even realizing there's a puddle there, not thinking like, oh, if I go through this puddle, it's gonna wet somebody, not thinking about how uncomfortable it is. And I call it stupid, but I don't know if that's what it is. It might just be self-centered. It might just be the fact that, you know, these people think that they're the only person in existence. They don't even acknowledge other people. So it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, they're so dumb. They don't realize they're about to splash somebody. But really, they're so selfish, they don't realize there's a somebody. All right, so I'm not one of those people that won't vote, obviously, because I'm going to vote. But I'm also not one of those people that really believes that my vote is going to make a difference. The reason I vote, and this is very important for anybody that doesn't know, your voting record makes a difference. So if there's something you don't like and you want something done about it, you can write to the lawmakers. And if you have a high voting record, they see that you vote in all the elections, even the little ones, then they actually care what you have to say. And they actually do something about it. But if you don't vote, they don't care. I'm on a Honda Grom right now. Anybody that watches this channel knows that my daily is an R1. But I also have a Grom. It's a funny story how I ended up with the Grom. So I played on somebody's ignorance. Not right to do, but it's what I did. So
I have the attention span of a goldfish, pardon me. The point of this story was that the fiance didn't want me riding anymore after I totaled the Kawasaki and broke my back. And obviously that wasn't going to be an option. So I told her we could compromise and I would get a Grom instead of a real bike. So she felt a lot better. Not knowing that the Grom is actually way more dangerous because it doesn't get out of its own way. The brakes are horrible and nobody can hear you coming. Plus it's low. So that was much worse than getting a real bike, but she didn't know any better and I wanted to get something and I didn't want to hear her mouth. So a Grom it was. Back to the show.
A woman that I was with years ago, and we were together for about 7 years. We were supposed to get married. That didn't work out. But while we were engaged, I got into a really bad accident with my Kawasaki ZX6R. And she was never the type of person to complain about the bike. As a matter of fact, when I got the bike, my credit was shot. It's good now, but at the time, horrible. And the bike that I had was a piece of crap, and it was breaking down constantly. And the money I was spending to fix this bike, I could have bought 3 of them. So she offered to take me down to the dealership and pick out a bike, and she would take out the loan. So my friend was a mechanic at the dealership, and I was so excited to get the bike, and I just kind of trusted my friend and thought that since he introduced me to the salespeople, they were going to give me a great deal. So I bought a leftover. It was brand new, but it was a leftover from the year before, and they sold it to me for 10 grand. It wasn't until after I bought the bike that I realized, like, that's what the brand new ones go for. They got me. But no harm, no foul, because the bikes hold their value. And when I finally did crash it, it was somebody else's fault, and their insurance company paid me out for it. And I got back $7,500 5 years later with like 40,000 miles on it. And you know that would never happen with a car. So I got to ride the, I was about to say a bad word. I try not to do that. In real life I do. I'm not going to lie to anybody. But I'm trying to stop there too. And I figured it's a better place than any to start. So I got to ride that bike substantially, daily, for 5 years, put a whole bunch of miles on it, and it only cost me $2,500. Right there is why you always have to be ready to emergency stop. This guy had all the room in the world ahead of him, and I'm not gonna lie, I was so wrapped up in what I was telling you guys that I wasn't paying attention as much as I should, which is a perfect example of what I always tell people. It takes 2 to get into an accident. The person that did something stupid and the person that wasn't prepared for it. If you're really paying attention the way that you're supposed to, you'll never get into an accident. But we're all human, and we all slip from time to time. But the best way I explain it to new riders, and if you're a new rider out there, listen up, it sounds like a joke, but I'm being dead serious. Pretend every single one of these cars is being driven by somebody that just caught you in bed with his wife. Not an idiot, not somebody that's not paying attention, but somebody that's actively seeking to murder you. If you do that, you'll be alright. Because every single time you're around one of them, you're going to be expecting them to try to do something slick to knock you off your bike, which is obviously not true. But now, when somebody does something that's quote-unquote unexpected, let me give it the unexpected, then you'll be expected. Now, it's a really horrible outlook on life, but it's great when you're riding on 2 wheels. Alright, now see this guy? And here's the thing that people always complain about me. Like they say, oh, when I'm lane splitting, whatever. Oh, you're cutting the line. You're cutting the line. Like, you people don't do the same thing. Look at this guy in the truck. But the difference between him and me is that I'm not holding anybody up. I'm going about my business. None of these people have to wait longer because I'm going through them. That guy, though, is slowing down a whole line of traffic because he doesn't want to wait on it. Now, I don't care. That's the reason I ride a bike. Well, that's part of the reason I ride a bike. Obviously, I just love riding bikes. But the main reason that I daily ride a bike is because of people like that. I don't want to be bothered. I professionally drove a truck for over 20 years. And the traffic just got worse and worse. And I had no choice but to sit in it. And in my personal vehicle, I much prefer to just go about my business and not be impeded by anybody. So that covers the impatient part. But even if I wasn't impatient, I'd be riding like this. Like, even if I didn't want to cut the line, even if I didn't want to get ahead of anybody, I'd be right here on the line, just not passing anybody. For the simple fact that when one of these people that's playing with their phone decides to smash into the car in front of them, I don't want to be in between them. And let me tell you, that was going on way before cell phones. It's just a lot worse now. Years ago, I had a Toyota Supra.
If you needed more proof that I have the attention span of a goldfish, point of this story was that I was sitting in my Supra one day with a suspended license, so I definitely didn't need that problem. And a car was coming up behind me, flying, after traffic came to a dead stop. This was unexpected though. came over a hill. Traffic was stopped at the bottom of the hill. Before the hill, everybody was moving. There was no traffic. So I stopped in time, but the guy behind me was not about to. Luckily, I saw it, and I had room to jump over into the lane next to me, which I did. And here he went, smashing right into the car that was in front of me before I moved. Back to the show.
I believe it was 2007. Not the car, the year that I had. I had the 86 and a half. The last one they made before the one that everybody loves from the Fast and Furious. So anyway, actually I had a suspended license at the time. My mom was a cop. My grandfather was a cop. My stepdad was a cop. My aunt was a cop. My cousin was a cop. So I used to get away with a lot. Like, they hardly ever gave me tickets. But when they did give me a ticket, I ignored it. So I was so bad, I once told the cop, I crumbled the ticket up in front of him, threw it out the window, and said, do you want to give me one for littering too, or can I go? One time I got caught running from a cop. This was in a Honda Accord, and the car was full of people. Back then, I didn't stop at all. Now I do, even on the bike.
There goes the goldfish thing again. Alright, so point of this one, I got busted running from a cop down a dead-end block in a neighborhood that I did not know. The sign was down, and the block was too long to see that it was a dead end. So he tore my car apart, found nothing illegal, ran my license, found no warrants, and somehow I actually had a good, clean license at that time. No suspensions or anything. And he asked me, why did you run? Your license is clean, you have no warrants, nothing illegal in the car. Why did you run? I told him, listen, every time I get pulled over, they always tell me the same thing. Hey, it's nothing personal, I'm just doing my job. So you know what? I believe you. It's nothing personal, you're just doing your job. Don't expect me to do it for you. You don't split your check with me. I'm not doing half the work. If you want to give me a ticket, catch me. Back to the show.
But back then, not even in the car I wouldn't stop. And the funny thing is, I was thinking that I was committing a felony the whole time. I didn't find out till later on in life that it wasn't even a misdemeanor in New York until 2006 to run from the police. It was a traffic violation. Now it's a misdemeanor. So I'm committing a traffic violation, thinking I'm committing a felony and running for dear life. But that's a whole nother conversation. So whenever they would give me a ticket, which was rare in comparison to the amount of times that I got pulled over, I wouldn't pay it anyway. The way I looked at it is, a driver's license is a license for me to drive however I feel like it. Because if I get pulled over, the worst that's going to happen is a ticket. So who cares? And I'm not going to pay the ticket anyway. Once I get my license suspended, obviously I was going to continue to drive. I just had to be a little bit more careful not to get myself pulled over, because that will put you in jail. And I would take it easy till I got my license back. Then once I got my license back, it was a wrap. And I didn't get my license back the same way that most people did. What I would do is I would just wait years. And then I would show up to the DMV, try to register a car or do something. And then when they told me that my license was suspended, I would say, no, that can't be. That's impossible. And when they showed me all the tickets, no, that wasn't me. It must have been somebody giving out my name. If you look in your records, I lost my license a couple of times and had to get a replacement copy. So somebody probably found the old one, and there you go, there's the ticket. So I would go to court, and we're talking years, like a good 6-7 years at least. The cop's retired by now. And if he's not going to bother showing up for a 7-year-old ticket. They have their court dates. They have their court dates already set up. They'll have 20 people coming in for one day, you know, and that's it. They're not going to show up just for mine. So now it ends up getting dismissed. I remember the last time, though, they tried to play a game with me. They told me that the cop was there and that they were ready to start trial. And they were going to give me one more chance to take a plea agreement before they did. Now, I was looking at 30 grand worth of tickets. They offered me to pay $325. to clear everything. Obviously, the cop wasn't there because they wouldn't have gave me such a sweet deal. But I took it anyway because I wasn't going to take that risk. But being the person that I am, the first thing out of my mouth was, that includes all kind of surcharges and court fees and everything, right? They weren't planning on including those in there, but I got them to throw it in, so I took the deal. Anyway, so once I would get my license back, now I'm back to driving like a jerk again. I remember one time I picked my friend up from his house, and we were young, you know, and he's younger than me, so he was still living with his parents at the time. And his next door neighbor had a corner house. And I remember when I picked him up, there was a school bus stopped with the sign out, you know, the stop sign, you can't pass. And that's another thing I didn't care about. I didn't care about any traffic laws at all whatsoever if I had my license. The only thing that I was concerned with was getting into an accident. So obviously I'm looking both ways when I'm going through a red light or something, you know, treating it like a stop sign, but I did what I wanted. So this particular bus was sitting there with the stop sign out. I was not about to wait for it, but the thing is there were cars parked on both sides of the street, so I didn't really have much of a choice. But then again, I did. The choice I made, I drove over his neighbor's front lawn, the corner house, drove over his front lawn to turn onto the sidewalk, and I was gone. And his parents saw it out the window, and he caught all types of, you know, I was about to say another bad word, but yeah, he had to hear it. But like I said, that was a very, very, very long time ago, and I'm sure they're over it by now. Well, almost there. So now I got to get to the voting booth, and I am not looking forward to that. I am expecting it to be a something show. Yeah, I didn't almost slip that time, but I don't know what else to call it.
Ay, Douglas Antonio.